The Old Man and His Enormous Deadly Python. Big Deadly Serpent's Secret. In a secluded village, Old Man Hemlock, a mysterious herbalist, and a witch doctor shares an unbreakable bond with Shadow, a colossal serpent, big python, he once saved. When greedy thieves attempt to plunder his home, they awaken a force beyond their comprehension. As Shadow defends its master with lethal precision, the villagers' fear of Hemlock grows, until a devastating threat forces them to seek his wisdom. What follows is a legendary tale of courage, redemption, and the unyielding bond between man and beast. Old Man Hemlock, with his skin like dried leaves and eyes like faded embers, lived on the edge of the village. He was a recluse, a man of shadows and whispers. Children dared not stray too close to his crumbling cottage, its windows perpetually shrouded in an eerie gloom. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones, of his uncanny knowledge of herbs and poisons, and of the monstrous serpent that coiled around his gnarled limbs, a guardian spirit of immense power. Some dismissed these tales as idle gossip, but fear lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the unknown. The Serpent's Gaze. Hemlock, however, was no charlatan. He did indeed possess a creature of extraordinary size and ferocity, a python of iridescent scales that shimmered like moonlight on water. He had found the serpent abandoned as an egg, weak and shivering, and had nursed it back to life. In return, the creature, whom he named Shadow, guarded his home with unwavering loyalty. Hemlock, in turn, studied the serpent's ways, learning the ancient language of the reptiles, their secrets woven into the very fabric of the earth. The arrival of strangers. A caravan of merchants, their faces hardened by years of travel, arrived in the village. Among them were 3 men of ill repute, their eyes gleaming with avarice. They had heard whispers of Hemlock's wealth, of gold and jewels supposedly hidden within his cottage. Greed, a venomous serpent of its own, coiled within their hearts, blinding them to the dangers that lay ahead. The night of the raid. As the moon cast long, skeletal shadows across the village, the 3 thieves crept towards Hemlock's cottage. Their hearts pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The cottage was eerily silent, the only sound the mournful hooting of an owl. They slipped through a broken window, their eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through the dust-covered panes. The Serpent's Awakening. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and forgotten herbs. Cobwebs clung to the rafters, and strange, unsettling shapes lurked in the shadows. The thieves cautiously made their way through the cluttered room, their hands outstretched, searching for the hidden treasure. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled through the cottage, vibrating the very floor beneath their feet. Eyes in the darkness. The thieves froze, their blood running cold. 2 luminous eyes, emerald green and filled with ancient wisdom, gleamed from the depths of the room. The air crackled with a palpable sense of danger. The thieves exchanged terrified glances, their resolve crumbling. They had underestimated Hemlock, underestimated the power that lurked within his humble abode. The first strike. One of the thieves, bolder than the others, lunged towards a chest overflowing with what appeared to be worthless trinkets. As his hand brushed against the lid, a sinuous form erupted from the shadows. Shadow, the python, coiled and struck with lightning speed, its fangs sinking deep into the thief's arm. The struggle for survival. The thief let out a blood-curdling scream, his body convulsing violently. The other 2 thieves, panic-stricken, scrambled back, their eyes wide with terror. Shadow, sensing blood, tightened its coils around the struggling man, its muscles rippling with power. The thief's screams were soon cut short, silenced by the python's crushing grip. A dance of death. The remaining thieves, armed with crude daggers, fought back. They lashed out at Shadow, their blows glancing harmlessly off the serpent's thick scales. The python, however, was a whirlwind of motion, its tail lashing out with deadly accuracy, knocking the thieves off their feet. Hemlock's intervention. Hemlock, awakened by the commotion, emerged from a hidden chamber, his eyes filled with a chilling fury. He witnessed the scene unfolding before him with a mixture of regret and grim satisfaction. He had warned the villagers about the dangers of greed, but his words had fallen on deaf ears. A show of power. Hemlock raised his hand, a low, guttural command escaping his lips. Shadow, sensing its master's presence, immediately released its grip on the fallen thief. The remaining thieves, seeing Hemlock, felt a wave of terror wash over them. They knew they had made a grave mistake. The price of greed. Hemlock, his voice a chilling whisper, addressed the trembling thieves. Greed, he said, is a poison that consumes the soul. It brings only sorrow and destruction. He gestured towards the lifeless body of their companion. This is the price you pay for your transgressions. The escape. The remaining thieves, their faces pale with fear, turned and fled, stumbling over themselves in their haste to escape the wrath of Hemlock and his monstrous guardian. They never returned to the village, their encounter with the serpent leaving an indelible mark on their souls. The aftermath. The villagers, alerted by the commotion, gathered around Hemlock's cottage, their faces a mixture of curiosity and fear. Hemlock, however, remained aloof, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The incident had shaken him deeply, a stark reminder of the darkness that lurked within the human heart. The serpent's sorrow. Shadow, despite its victory, seemed subdued. It coiled around Hemlock's feet, its emerald eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the hearth. The scent of blood still lingered in the air, a grim reminder of the violence that had transpired. The villagers' fear. The incident with the thieves cast a long shadow over the village. Children whispered of the monstrous serpent, their imaginations running wild. Even the bravest of men avoided Hemlock's cottage, their fear of Shadow outweighing their curiosity. Hemlock's isolation. Hemlock, once a respected elder, became increasingly isolated. The villagers, fearful of his power and the creature that guarded him, shunned his company. He spent his days tending to his herbs and poisons, his nights in the company of Shadow, the only creature that truly understood him. A change in the wind. Years passed. The incident with the thieves faded into a distant memory, but the fear of Hemlock and his serpent remained. Then, a new threat emerged, a blight that withered the crops and sickened the livestock. The villagers, desperate, turned to Hemlock for help. A plea for help. A delegation of villagers, led by the village elder, approached Hemlock's cottage with trepidation. They pleaded with him to use his knowledge of herbs to cure the blight. Hemlock, initially hesitant, finally agreed to help. The healing touch. Hemlock, guided by his deep understanding of the natural world, concocted a potent brew from rare herbs and plants. He distributed the potion among the villagers, and within days, the blight began to recede. Renewed respect. The villagers, humbled by their previous fear and prejudice, were filled with gratitude. They began to see Hemlock in a new light, not as a reclusive madman, but as a wise and powerful elder, a protector of the village, a bridge between man and beast. Hemlock, in turn, began to emerge from his self-imposed isolation. He shared his knowledge of herbal remedies with the villagers, teaching them the delicate balance of nature. He even allowed the children to approach Shadow, under his watchful eye, dispelling their fear of the magnificent creature. The changing seasons. As the seasons changed, so too did the relationship between Hemlock and the villagers. The fear and mistrust that had once separated them was slowly replaced by respect and admiration. Hemlock, finally accepted by the community he had once shunned, found a measure of peace. A new generation. A new generation of children grew up knowing Hemlock not as a fearsome recluse, but as a wise and benevolent elder. They would often visit his cottage, eager to hear his stories of the ancient world, of the secrets whispered by the wind and the wisdom hidden within the rustling leaves. The serpent's legacy. Shadow, now old and weary, spent its days basking in the sun, a gentle giant content in its twilight years. It had become a symbol of both fear and respect, a reminder of the power of nature and the importance of living in harmony with the world around us. A warning from the past. One day, a traveling merchant, his face etched with the lines of hardship, arrived in the village. He spoke of a band of ruthless brigands, a scourge that had terrorized villages across the land. Fear, a cold and insidious serpent, began to creep back into the hearts of the villagers. Preparing for the threat. Hemlock, remembering the past, knew that the villagers must prepare for the impending danger. He began to teach them the art of self-defense, instructing them in the use of simple weapons and the importance of vigilance. A shadow of fear. The news of the brigands cast a long shadow over the village. Children no longer played freely in the fields, and the once vibrant marketplace fell silent. Fear, a cold and insidious serpent, began to creep back into the hearts of the villagers. The brigands arrive. One moonless night, the brigands descended upon the village. They were a fearsome sight, a band of hardened warriors, their faces masked and their eyes gleaming with a cruel, predatory light. They stormed into the village square, demanding food and shelter, their voices echoing through the night. A stand against evil. The villagers, though terrified, refused to submit. Led by Hemlock, they made a stand against the brigands. The men, armed with makeshift weapons and fueled by a newfound courage, fought valiantly, but they were no match for the well-trained warriors. Shadow's intervention. Seeing his people in danger, Hemlock knew it was time for Shadow to act. With a guttural command, he unleashed the serpent. Shadow, a whirlwind of motion, slithered through the terrified brigands, striking with deadly precision. A night of terror. The village square was transformed into a chaotic battleground. The screams of the wounded mingled with the roars of the serpent and the clash of steel. The brigands, initially confident, were thrown into disarray by Shadow's unexpected ferocity. The tide turns. Inspired by Shadow's courage, the villagers fought with renewed vigor. They learned to use the environment to their advantage, using the narrow alleyways and the shadows of the surrounding buildings to their advantage. A Pyrrhic victory. The battle raged on for hours. Finally, with the last of the brigands vanquished, a weary silence descended upon the village. The air was thick with the scent of blood and smoke, a grim testament to the violence that had unfolded. Healing the wounds. In the aftermath of the battle, the villagers tended to their wounded. Hemlock, his eyes filled with a weary sadness, surveyed the scene of destruction. The victory had come at a heavy cost. Shadow's sacrifice. Shadow, weakened by the battle and the loss of blood, lay coiled at Hemlock's feet. His scales were marred with wounds, and his eyes, once so vibrant, now held a dull, lifeless gleam. A farewell. Hemlock, knowing that Shadow's time was drawing to a close, spent the remaining days by his companion's side. He whispered ancient serpent songs, stories of the earth and the stars, hoping to ease Shadow's passing. The serpent's passing. Finally, with Hemlock's head resting on Shadow's coils, the great serpent breathed its last. A wave of grief washed over Hemlock, but he knew that Shadow's spirit would forever watch over the village. A legacy of courage. The villagers, deeply saddened by Shadow's passing, mourned the loss of their protector. But they also remembered the courage and sacrifice of both Hemlock and his magnificent companion. A new beginning. In the wake of the tragedy, the villagers rebuilt their lives. They strengthened their defenses, learned to live in harmony with nature, and never forgot the lessons they had learned from Hemlock and Shadow. Hemlock's wisdom. Hemlock, though grief-stricken, continued to guide the village. He shared his wisdom with the younger generation, teaching them the importance of courage, compassion, and respect for all living things. The legend of Shadow. Stories of Shadow, the magnificent serpent who saved the village from the brigands, were passed down from generation to generation. Children would gather around the fire, listening in awe as the elders recounted the tales of the brave serpent and the wise old man. A new guardian. Years passed. Hemlock, his hair now white as snow, continued to live in the cottage on the edge of the village. He had found solace in nature, his heart filled with the memories of Shadow. An unexpected gift. One spring morning, Hemlock discovered a small, abandoned snake egg nestled amongst the roots of an ancient oak tree. He carefully brought the egg back to his cottage, nurturing it with the same care he had given to Shadow. A new hope. The egg hatched, revealing a tiny, emerald green snake. Hemlock, remembering the joy he had shared with Shadow, named the creature Hope. He knew that the cycle of life and death continued, and that Hope, in time, would become a guardian for the village. The passing of an elder. As the years wore on, Hemlock's health began to fail. He knew that his time in this world was drawing to a close. He spent his final days surrounded by the villagers, sharing stories and imparting his wisdom. A final farewell. On a warm summer evening, Hemlock passed away peacefully, his hand resting gently on Hope's smooth scales. The villagers mourned the loss of their beloved elder, but they also celebrated his life and the enduring legacy of his wisdom. Hope's growth. Hope, under Hemlock's tutelage, grew into a magnificent creature. It roamed the surrounding forests, a silent guardian, its presence a comforting reminder of the bond between man and beast. A new era. A new generation of villagers grew up knowing the legends of Hemlock and Shadow. They learned to respect nature, to live in harmony with the creatures that shared their world. The enduring legacy. The village prospered, a testament to the courage and wisdom of its ancestors. The memory of Hemlock and Shadow, the serpent keeper and his magnificent guardian, remained alive in the hearts of the villagers, a reminder of the importance of courage, compassion, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The return of the travelers. Years later, a group of travelers, weary from their journey, arrived at the village. They spoke of a land ravaged by war, a land where fear and despair had taken root. A call for help. The villagers, remembering the wisdom of Hemlock, decided to help. They gathered supplies, their hearts filled with compassion for those in need. Hope, sensing the urgency of the situation, coiled around the wagons, ready to accompany them on their journey. The journey of hope. The journey was long and arduous. They faced many dangers, but Hope, ever vigilant, protected them from harm. They encountered villages ravaged by war, their people starving and despairing. Spreading the seeds of hope. The villagers, guided by the spirit of Hemlock, shared their food and offered their skills to the war-torn communities. They taught them how to cultivate the land, how to heal the wounded, and how to find hope in the face of despair. A message of peace. Hope, with its gentle presence, brought a sense of calm and peace to the war-torn lands. It became a symbol of hope and renewal, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a glimmer of light.